It is the black sheep member of the KBT family, focusing instead on close-range mastery than long-range combat. It is KBT11 Sagehorn, with a kit of triple sword, biped legs, and the leg ability of Generator, which grants a heater effect to self when charging Metaforce. Now, when it comes to overall balance, honestly, even with him being a melee-based model, Sagehorn honestly is no exception to that, with his incredible balance across the board for what he offers, not just as a pure set, but also as mixed parts. Sword, for all three of his parts, his head and both arms, are conventional melee skills that allow him to deal very basic melee damage at best, with no major drawback or detriment, making him a very well-rounded and very well balanced conventional model that you can use pretty much anywhere with no major drawback or detriment. That being said, however, when it comes to his overall advantages, his balance is pretty much where it is, though. He doesn't sport anything overly nasty when it comes to his skills, but he's also not necessarily lacking either, making him that very nice little sweet spot of where you'd expect to be. And normally when it comes to, say, ailments or double parts, I do tend to like using the redundancy argument, but in this case, for Sagehorn, he honestly makes it work, as in, Sword is a very basic skill, which means there really is no issue to having it on more than one part. And the Generator ability is honestly kind of nice too, as it does allow Sagehorn that little extra buff to his overall speed when running to the line and prepping his turn, to kind of help him get that extra edge on the opponent and maybe attack just a little bit faster than them or just barely outrun them. Across the board, though, his leg stats are honestly kind of okay too, kind of in that general sweet spot of where you'd want to be. Nothing overly powerful, yet overly weak either. For these reasons, as a pure set score, I do honestly have to rate Sagehorn a very solid 7 out of 10. He really has no major weakness to himself, aside from having moderately mediocre stats, I guess you can call it, but then again, for someone who specializes in balance and conventional combat skills, that really is the mastery and the aim of the game that he was shooting for from the very get-go. As mixed parts, on the other hand, I do have to rate him higher at an 8 out of 10, given that even as a pure set, you can use him as is, with a couple minor flaws and drawbacks that would hold him back just a little bit. As mixed parts, you can honestly use either of his arms or even his head pretty much anywhere on any conventional melee team. For that dedicated nuker that needs a balanced melee part, for your auxiliary fighter that doesn't necessarily focus on damage. His legs you may not use super often, if I'm entirely honest, as the Generator ability isn't something you really want to focus on too heavily, but either of his arms or his head are absolutely going to be MVP parts, and this especially applies to any rookie meta rotters that are just joining the game or picking him up pretty early. He is honestly a model you will never ever go wrong with using.